In our last episode, we showed how we made this Dr. Doom style force field effect.
Unlimited ammo.
And we didn't have time to get to some of the additional shots, mainly these impact elements. So that is what we're going to do today. And of course, if you haven't seen that episode, link below for that. But wasting no time and jumping right into After Effects, the first thing that we're going to do is take our shot here and use a duplicate of the footage to separate Emily from the background by using the Rotobrush tool. Then we'll use a channel blur effect to soften the alpha, since as you can see here, she's slightly out of focus. And the first thing that we'll tackle here is the muzzle flash coming from the end of the hall. Now, last time we showed how we used a practical light on our close-up of Justin for the muzzle flash interaction, which it would have been nice to have that here, but there was no good way to do that without seeing the light in frame. And we would also need it aiming towards the camera in order to light up the rest of the hall. So to be able to have full control, we shot a separate take without Emily or Justin. We placed the light at the end of the hall with that same flash setting. So now we'll line up the two shots as much as possible, then set it to screen and keyframe the position and scale to match as closely as possible throughout. Next, we'll draw a feathered mask to keep the main area and use a curves effect to add contrast. For Justin, in this shot, we used an adjustment layer above the footage, bringing up the light on Justin to try and match, then added a feathered mask around him and keyframed the opacity to only be visible on those frames. For the muzzle flash in this close-up shot, we used Action Essentials 2 assets that we synced up to the practical flashing light, then set those to screen. But for this wide shot, since we already have the practical light in the correct color and location, we can just keep this and use a turbulent displace. Which will change some of these values to make the light a random irregular shape. And we can add an expression to the evolution, making the displacement change so that each frame takes a different shape just like this. Then draw a mask around just the muzzle area, and in the effects dropdown, press the plus, which will isolate the effect to only appear within this mask. Like in our first force field tutorial, we'll be using our shockwaves pack, and if you have the Infinity pack, you're going to have these same shockwaves there as well. And you of course don't have to use our packs. You can find similar assets from your place of choice, but if you do want to support us, we have a whole store at tryingdigital.com with a ton of assets for filmmakers, music, LUTs, and of course VFX assets like these. And as a thank you to those who do want to send support our way, we're making both the Infinity pack and shockwaves 40% off until the end of August. So if you want them, grab them now. But back to our shot. For the shield bullet interactions, we're going to grab one of our shockwave assets and drop that into the comp. We're going to set it to screen, reposition, and scale how we like, and change the speed to 50, making it twice as fast. Now we'll duplicate, move its position and place in the timeline, and then swap it for another shockwave by holding down Alt and clicking and dragging that new asset, letting go when our mouse is over the layer we want to replace. We did this for multiple shockwaves throughout the timeline until we had this. Next, select them all and pre-compose, then set that back to screen. Now we'll jump over to our first force field shot and copy and paste the green color and RGB separation and tweak values if needed. Use a set matte effect, choosing the roto layer, effects and masks, and invert. Now we're going to use a new optical glow and a couple more copies with altered values to give a wash of light and to add anamorphic flares on highlights. Then a curves effect to add a bit more green to those highlights. For spark interactions from bullets impacting the force field, we're going to duplicate the shockwave comp, and this time we're going to place each of these assets from Action Essentials 2 in the same position and timing as the shockwaves. In the main comp, drop these in and go through the same process again, except this time giving them a warm color until you have this. With the new adjustment layer placed beneath the roto layer, we're going to use Red Giant's chromatic displacement effect using the shockwaves comp and boosting the displacement amount. With a compound blur effect, we'll again use the shockwaves comp to slightly soften the displacement, giving us some cool chromatic ripples like this here. Like last time, we have a poster here which needs to show the reflection of our force field impact. So with the new solid, we're going to draw and keyframe a mask to move with this throughout the shot. Duplicating both the shockwaves and the spark comps, we'll move them above the footage, flip the X scale, and move over to where the placement looks right for a reflection. Now choose the poster solid as an alpha matte, and in the color vibrance effect, we'll lower brightness and gamma and add a fast box blur effect to knock them out of focus slightly. With a few more duplicates of these interactions, interaction comps, we can reposition, lower opacity, and use fast box blurs to have them act as interactive lighting on the walls. We did a lot of the same steps again for the next shot, with the impact scaled up and placed in front of Emily this time, and we added some light flicker on her face and the hallway using a wiggle expression on the opacity of adjustment layers as well as other adjustment layers, animating a feathered mask to add warm light to Emily during the spark flashes. To finish, we made her eyes black, added some lens effects and some real smart motion blur as a final touch, and you can also get a cool look by using the shockwaves to drive the displacement layer like this here. So try different versions and colors to customize your own look. But now we finally have our shot. And again, if you haven't seen the first episode, check that out in the links below, which is where you'll find links for our asset packs as well. But until next time, don't forget to write, shoot, edit, repeat.